Hey, friends! Now, last year I went over some versions of the Nutcracker, and the 1986 version, Nutcracker the Motion Picture, is still my favorite by miles, and the one I always recommend. I also reviewed this thing, the nuttiest Nutcracker, an abomination from hell itself. This thing is the Cat's 2019 of Nutcracker adaptations, definitely to be avoided. Well, in this video, I have some more nutty Nutcrackers for you. How do they measure up? Well, let's get into it. First up, we have an animated take on the Nutcracker, starring our old friends Tom and Jerry. Tom and Jerry, A Nutcracker Tale from 2007. Now you know me, right? Usually, I'd never root for a cat. But for some reason, Tom has always been the exception to that rule. So yeah, I root for Tom. Jerry deserves to get caught and killed. He's a little jerk. Anyway, here Jerry Mouse hangs out in a theater and is watching a performance of the Nutcracker. He wants to dance ballet himself, but wouldn't you know it, Tom and a gang of alley cats try to crash the party. Jerry somehow activates some magic, and he winds up in a magic land where cats rule the kingdom. Jerry has to help save the day by getting advice from the master toy maker. Guess who that is? Jerry and his newfound friends from the island of misfit toys have to vanquish the cats before sunrise, or else the cats will rule the kingdom forever. Now, I really like this one. It kind of flips the Mouse King's army on its head, see, and it's cats who are taking over instead of mice. Being a big fan of Tom and Jerry, I could tell they were recycling some elements from the classic cartoons, but I was okay with that. Tom and Jerry don't speak, which is how it should be, and both are in character. Before he passed away, this was the last production overseen by animation legend Joseph Barbera, one of the co-creators of Tom and Jerry. I think it's pretty good. It's not like the heyday of Tom and Jerry, but the elements are here, and it's fun. You even get to see a bit of the violence Tom usually suffered, although it's been toned down in this. Still worth a watch, though. And then there's The Nutcracker Prince from 1990. This one is done in a sort of DreamWorks style of animation. Not quite as good as that, but you get the idea. Really hard to track down a copy of this. Even used DVDs are exorbitantly priced. A viewer, Oyhat, I hope I pronounced that right, Oyhat, pointed me at YouTube for this one. This stars Kiefer Sutherland as the Nutcracker. Phyllis Diller voices the Mouse Queen. Peter O'Toole is also in this, and Megan Follows, who played Anne of Green Gables in that long-running series, plays Clara. This one has some good points. It's kinda aimed at the kids. The ending is pretty cool too, and Clara is in the land of dolls and realizes she has to leave, and some surreal things start happening. I'll try to remember to link to it. Next, how about Barbie in the Nutcracker from 2001, starring, no surprise, Barbie. This was the first in a string of similar Barbie movies. One of my viewers, Lisa Marie, mentioned this one and said it's one she grew up with, so I took a look. Here, Barbie is teaching ballet to this little girl who keeps tripping over her own feet and falling on her ass, and she gets frustrated. So Barbie tells her the tale of a Nutcracker. I guess this kid is one of the Barbie characters. I don't know, but as for the Nutcracker, this one plays fast and loose with the story, but It's usually catch as catch can with Nutcracker adaptations. Most seem to do this, so it's not unexpected. This one has Tim Curry doing the voice of the Mouse King, probably the only really famous brand name actor here. The animation is all done with CGI, and I don't know. If you like Barbie stuff, and if you're a little kid, maybe it'll do. It was probably serviceable for its time, but it doesn't quite hold up today. Here, Prince Eric is turned into a nutcracker by the evil Mouse King, and Clara, played by Barbie, has to go find the Sugar Plum Princess in order to stop the Mouse King and make Candyland safe for democracy, or whatever. The Mouse King has this little bat guy as a henchman, and I liked him, he's funny. This kid here is dressed up in a gingerbread man outfit. He doesn't look too happy about it. Can't say that I blame him. There are some fairies in this, but Ken isn't one of them. Oh, come on. We all know about Ken, right? Well, Ken isn't in this. This isn't Ken. Ken is a blonde. I guess Barbie got tired of being used as a beard all these years and finally dumped Ken. Anyway, as with Barbie, if you grew up with this version of the Nutcracker, no doubt it has some nostalgia value. Or if you're a little girl of a certain age getting into Barbie, you'd like this. Or if you're a Twitter user of an indeterminate age, this will be entertaining. There's nothing really scary in it, and of course, it's okay for kids. And speaking of CGI, that leads up to our next entry of Nutty Nutcrackers, namely, the Nutcracker Sweet from 2015. Ugh. My God, this thing is just awful. The animation in the Barbie movie is vastly superior, and that was made 14 years earlier. I'm not kidding. It's terrible. I mean, here's the Nutcracker figure. I mean, obviously, the idiots who made this never bothered to find out what a Nutcracker actually looks like. It has to be big enough to crack nuts, right? But this is not a Nutcracker. It looks more like an action figure. In Candyland, Marie, not Clara, but Marie, and the Nutcracker are changed into different styled CGI figures, while Franz, or Fritz, or whatever, her little brother, who goes along, is transformed into this weird-looking retro cartoon figure. Totally different style. Now I'll give the movie this. When they get to Candyland, the mice transform into these little tin robot figures, and I thought they looked really cool for what this is. I mean, the mouse army attacks the castle, and they use Ents. Like, look at this! The mice have Ents! These Ent knockoffs throw mice, who are specially outfitted with a flying rig, who then basically glide into the castle to attack. The mice, they look good. The Ents, come on. Alicia Silverstone plays Marie, and Ed Asner plays an owl who helps out. This was directed by a guy named Eduardo Schuld. Personally, I think Schuld shouldn't have. Direct, that is. God, it's awful. Okay, the Nutcracker Sweet is not as bad as the Nuttiest Nutcracker, but it's the worst version I found this year, that's for sure. Next up, we go for a different animation style with Nutcracker Fantasy. I had this on tap, but another of my regular viewers, Matthew, he mentioned this one. He likes this, and he's right. I think it's a really good version. It was made in the Rankin and Bass style, and no wonder, since some of the same people who did the animation for Rankin and Bass worked on this as well. It plays a bit fast and loose with the story, but it's very charming and has some real name brands lending their voices. Michelle Lee narrates, Melissa Gilbert from Little House on the Prairie plays Clara, Christopher Lee plays Drosselmeyer, Joanne Woolery from Laugh-In, she plays the evil Mouse Queen. Roddy McDowell is Franz, Eva Gabor, Dick Van Patten, Jack Angel, and Laureen Tuttle are all on hand. The animation is great, and certainly Rankin and Bass-esque. as you'd expect. And I can totally recommend this one, it's really good. But leave us not overlook another stop-motion version of the Nutcracker, the Nutcracker and the Mouse King from 1978. This segment was animated by the team of Burra and Hardwick, who were sort of the British Rankin and Bass, and did a lot of work on children's shows. This one is very charming and fairly faithful to the overall story. You can find it on YouTube, and I'll link to it down below for you so you can see it. It's only like 18 minutes, and well worth a watch. Well, Barkey, you say, what about live action? Well, there's this one, Nutcracker, the Untold Story from 2010. Not gonna lie, this is a strange one. This picture has been reviled. Why? Because it uses a very unfortunate analogy. See, the director was trying to get this thing made since the late 1960s, and finally got his chance. He changed the mice to rats, since rats are scarier. Well, fair enough. But one element that didn't hold up too well, and maybe he ought to have reconsidered over the years, is that the rats are Germans from the 1930s. If you know what I mean. Yep, that's right. They are literally ratsies. Ratsies in German uniforms who burn things in furnaces. Not people, thankfully, but toys. They burn toys. Well, what does that say? Plus, it's a musical with ratsies burning things. The movie is set in 1920s Austria, and this picture is all the more unintentionally disturbing, knowing as we do what will happen in the next 10 to 15 years in that part of the world. So, yeah. This was originally shot in 3D, and it must have been amazing to see it that way. I only have the 2D version. Still, the production values in this are absolutely amazing. The designs are great, the stuff like this retro helicopter thing and other elements are really awesome. And the CGI? It holds up surprisingly well 12 years on. The giant Christmas tree is especially gorgeous. The two kids here are okay. The Nutcracker himself looks alright too. And the kid's Uncle Albert is strongly implied to be you-know-who, although they never explicitly say that's who he is. What about our baddie? Well, I have to give this guy credit. He's doing a shtick. Like Jim Carrey as Ace Ventura was doing a shtick, and he had to maintain that throughout the picture. This guy's doing the same thing as the ratsy villain. There's a lot to like here. Some of it is visually stunning and very impressive, and even some of the songs are good. But the ratsies. Then there's this one. The Secret of the Nutcracker from 2007. This is a Canadian production, and it's super weird. This is set in rural Canada in 1943. The dad of the family, he's been shot down over Germany and is in a POW camp. The family is anxiously awaiting word from him, but they don't receive many letters because war. Our heroine, Clara, meets this weird bird guy named Drosselmeyer. He's weird and has these bird people companions that are weird. Anyway, he brings some gifts to the family, including, you guessed it, a nutcracker. Well, Clara goes to sleep and dreams about the Germans chasing her. They wear bear heads as hats, like the bad guys in the 13th Warrior. She later dreams about helping her father escape. It's all very weird. There are some nods to ballet dancing, but it feels all the world like the story of the Nutcracker was just grafted on to this other story about the family in rural Canada during World War II. And you're left with some glaring questions. Like, why does this owl guy want to help Clara in the first place? Hey Clara, I've seen Twin Peaks. Don't you know the owls are not what they seem? Better watch out there. Brian Cox plays Uncle Dross, the owl guy, and he's the only real name brand in the cast. Downsides to this? Well, I think it runs a bit long, and the connection to the Nutcracker is tenuous at best. They could have dispensed with that altogether and done a straight story about the family, or leaned into the weird, surreal stuff even more. Towards the end, Clara tours her house and all but one of the rooms are empty. It's really cool, but very surreal, and it makes you think she never actually wakes up from her dream world. But the biggest fail are Clara's two brothers. These kids do not look, speak, or act like kids in the 1940s. They just seem to scream modern day. This has been a big problem in Hollywood in the past 10 years or so, but this was made in Canada in 2007, so you'd think they would have at least tried to have the kids talk in a way that reflected the time in which the story is set. There are some good things in here, but it doesn't really have anything to do with the Nutcracker, despite cribbing the music and story elements from it. I think the dad has way too much dialogue, too. They could have trimmed that down. Anyway, I have even more of these I want to talk about, but this video's already way too long, so I'll have to save those for next year. There's more Christmas action incoming, though, so I'll see you in the next one.